about the early church, we're really talking about the period from the New Testament through the first 3 centuries or so of the church's life. In the New Testament, we learn that the earliest Christians from the day of Pentecost were filled with the power of the Holy Spirit, a sense of urgency about the imminent return of Christ, and a missionary impulse to spread this good news into the cities of the Jewish diaspora, mostly in Asia Minor, and eventually throughout the entire Roman Empire. Despite our sometimes romantic views of the purity of the early church, in fact, early Christianity was always fraught with controversy and conflict, perhaps especially in those early centuries. The Council of Jerusalem in the year 50 AD, the church, after much debate, decided to welcome Gentiles as members. The first centuries of the church were also a time of great diversity of theological opinion. The Gnostics were one group who challenged what we now consider to be mainstream Christianity. They were a hodgepodge of Greek philosophy and Eastern mysticism, and they spread quickly and produced a whole library of gospels and other writings. In response to these and many other teachings, we gradually see the growth of what we call a Catholic or universal or definitive teaching within the growing church. One example was the gradual development of the canon, which was an official list of inspired books later codified into the New Testament. While the New Testament was not official until the year 397 at the Council of Carthage, already by the year 180, we see great figures of the church making reference to almost all of the books. Another example was the development of early creeds or confessional statements, like the baptism formula of Hippolytus, in which candidates for baptism were asked to affirm their belief in the Trinity. We begin to see also the gradual development of worship and liturgical practices and church governance and structure. First Clement, a letter written from the church in Rome around the year 95, indicates that the roles of bishop and deacon, which were mentioned in the New Testament, are becoming formal offices in the church. Ignatius of Antioch adds to that list elders or presbyters. And the Didache, which was rediscovered in the 19th century, but dates from very early in the church's life, gives instructions about baptism, Eucharist, and church governance. From these and other sources, we get a picture of the church that, while splintered, had a growing conviction that they were part of a single people with shared citizenship, not in Rome, but in the heavenly Jerusalem. In these scattered communities, we see a shared understanding of the centrality of baptism and Eucharist, and a disciplined life of fasting and prayer, high ethical standards, and above all, a dedication to practice love and charity. During these first 3 centuries of growth, the new Christian church had an uneasy relationship with the Roman Empire. There were some positives. The extensive network of roads and the freedom of citizenship allowed St. Paul and later evangelists to quickly spread the gospel far and wide. But Roman society and government were deeply suspicious of this new religion. The first 2 centuries saw sporadic persecutions, like Nero, who blamed Christians for the Great Fire of Rome. But for the most part, the emperor saw Christianity as not much of a threat. By the 3rd century, the situation had changed. The growth of Christianity could no longer be ignored. At the same time, the empire was beset by enemies at home and abroad. The emperor Decius seized the throne and in 250 began a universal persecution of Christians, which was continued under his successors. This caused a crisis as many church members and leaders abandoned the faith. At this dark moment, one of the major turning points in all of Christian history occurred. In the year 312, the Emperor Constantine had a vision the night before an important battle in which he saw the Chi Rho, the first 2 Greek letters of the name of Christ, with the words, "In this sign conquer." The next day he won the battle and decisive control of the empire. He attributed his victory to Christ and immediately enacted an edict of toleration. The persecutions were over for good. Constantine also adopted a Christian bishop as advisor and began paying for the construction of Christian churches. Constantine also convened several church councils to deal with church theology and structure. The Council of Nicaea in the year 325 responded to more theological controversy and hammered out a creed, the Nicene Creed, which specifically affirmed the divinity of Christ. Constantine, as was the custom in his day, was baptized on his deathbed in 337. The importance of Constantine really can't be overestimated. Before his reign, Christianity faced imminent threat both from Roman persecution and internal doctrinal dispute. After his death, the Catholic Church had become the official religion of the Roman Empire and had reaffirmed its core beliefs. It had begun to codify its sacred scriptures and structures of governance. It was poised to play an even greater role in world history.